All right, today we are going to demystify the entire female reproductive system. We're going to break it all down, from the external anatomy to the incredible internal organs that make human life possible. So let's jump right in.
That is a fantastic question, isn't it? And the answer, which we'll get into, is the clitoris. But this question really sets the stage perfectly for our journey today, because it shows that this system is about so much more than just reproduction. It's a true marvel of both external design and unbelievable internal engineering.
So we're going to begin our tour from the outside and work our way in. The proper scientific term for all the external parts is the vulva. And, understanding its different components is really the first step to appreciating how the whole system works.
Okay, so think of this as our roadmap for the external anatomy. Right up top, you've got the mons pubis, which is basically a protective cushion of fatty tissue. Then you have the labia, which kind of act like gateways. And nestled right in there is the clitoris, the center of pleasure. Now let's zoom in and look at each of these parts a little closer.
So the vulva has two sets of protective folds or lips, and these are called the labia. You've got the larger outer folds, those are the labia majora, and then the smaller inner folds, which are the labia minora. A really good way to think of them is like outer guards and inner sensors, and each one has its own very distinct job.
The main job of the labia majora is protection, right? That's thanks to the fatty tissue that gives it that cushion. But here's what's truly fascinating. It actually connects to the internal anatomy. Believe it or not, fibers from the round ligament, which helps hold the uterus in place deep inside the pelvis, extend all the way out to here. It's just a perfect example of how this whole system is intricately wired together, from the inside out.
Okay, so inside the majora, we find the labia minora. These are delicate, hairless folds, and they are just packed with blood vessels. That's exactly why they become so sensitive and actually swell up during arousal. They also form a little protective hood over the clitoris, which we're about to get to right now. Now, the space that's protected by the labia minora is called the vestibule. You can kind of think of it as the main entrance hall. It houses two super important openings. You have the urethral orifice for urine, and then right behind it, the vaginal orifice, which is the gateway to all the internal reproductive organs. And now let's circle back to that incredible organ dedicated to pleasure, the clitoris. What we can actually see on the outside, the glands, is really just the tip of the iceberg. It's actually a large, complex internal structure that has a body and two legs, or crura, that wrap deep down into the pelvis. This internal structure is made of erectile tissue called the corpora cavernosa, and yep, that's the exact same type of tissue found in a penis. When it fills up with blood during arousal, the entire clitoris swells and becomes extremely sensitive. And what's remarkable is that its one and only known biological purpose is pleasure. And finally, to wrap up our tour of the external anatomy, we have the glands. You can think of them as the support crew. The greater vestibular glands, also called Bartholin's glands, are the lubrication team, producing mucus. And nearby, you have the lesser vestibular glands, or Skene's glands, which provide a line of defense, secreting a fluid that actually has antimicrobial properties. Okay, so now that we've mapped out the entire exterior, it's time to venture inside. We're about to move deep into the pelvic cavity to discover the real powerhouses of the system, the internal organs where reproduction actually begins. Tucked away safely inside this bony fortress of the pelvis, we find the main players. Here we see the uterus, the ovaries flanking it on either side, and of course the delicate fallopian tubes connecting them. Let's go ahead and break each one down. The vagina is this remarkable muscular canal that connects the uterus to the outside world. And it's incredibly versatile. I mean, it plays three totally distinct roles. It receives sperm during intercourse, it stretches to become the birth canal, and it also serves as the exit for menstrual fluid. The uterus is this amazing pear-shaped organ that basically functions like a high-tech smart house. The inner wall, the endometrium, well, that's the nursery. It prepares this lush, nutrient-rich lining for a potential pregnancy every single month. The myometrium is the powerful muscular structure of the house, giving the incredible force needed for childbirth. And the perimetrium is the thin, protective outer layer, kind of like the siding on the house. So how can an organ expand from the size of a small pear to the size of a watermelon and still stay in place? Well, the answer is a whole network of strong, flexible ligaments. Structures like the broad and round ligaments anchor the uterus securely right inside the pelvis, which gives it both the support it needs and the freedom it needs to grow.
All right, let's meet the command centers of the entire system. The ovaries. These small almond-shaped organs have two massive jobs. First, they're the female gonads, which just means they're the source of the eggs. And second, they are endocrine glands, acting like tiny hormone factories that produce the estrogen and progesterone needed to run the whole menstrual cycle.
And here is a mind-blowing fact about the ovaries for you. A female is born with every single egg she will ever have, all tucked away inside these tiny follicles. She starts with tens of thousands of them, but over her entire reproductive life, only about 500 will ever fully mature and get the chance to be released. It's like an incredible biological lottery. So how does a tiny egg make the huge journey from the ovary to the uterus? It travels through the fallopian tubes, which are way more than just simple pipes. At the end, near the ovary, you have these finger-like projections called fimbriae that actively sweep the released egg inside. The egg then travels to this wider section called the ampulla, which is kind of like the VIP lounge, where fertilization almost always takes place.
So let's follow that journey step by step. First, an egg is released during ovulation. Then, the fimbria gently collect it. For a very brief window of time, as it's traveling through the tube, it can be fertilized. But whether it's fertilized or not, tiny hair-like things called cilia inside the tube create a gentle current, pushing it slowly along its several-day journey towards the uterus. So, we've toured the external anatomy, and we've toured the internal powerhouses. Now it's time to put it all together. Because these aren't just separate parts in a textbook, you know? They are a beautifully coordinated system where every single piece has a vital role to play. When you zoom out and look at the big picture, the entire system can really be understood through three core ideas. First, the external vulva is engineered for both protection and pleasure. Second, the internal organs form a seamless, dynamic pathway designed for the journey of life. And finally, the hormones that come from the ovaries act as the master conductors, orchestrating this entire complex symphony. And that is our guide to the female reproductive system, a truly complex and incredible piece of human biology. So we'll leave you with one final question to think about. After seeing how all these parts work together, what aspect of this amazing system do you think is the most commonly misunderstood?